Most car owners are spending 30 or more % of their gross income on car payments, insurance, and fuel. 30%. That is not a small percentage. That's why it sounds more like a wealth killer than it is about being a transportation cost. And it's one of the single biggest reasons why high-income earners stay broke. However, the wealthy have found a simple rule that actually works to avoid that trap of spending such a large percentage of your income on a car. And that is the 24-10 rule. The 24-10 rule is what we are going to talk about in this video. And by the end of the video, you will actually have a better idea as to whether you can afford your car or not. So let's get into it. Now, before we even touch the 24-10 rule, we need to talk about setting a ceiling for our car payment or for the cost that we are spending on our car, which is the 35% rule. And this is when 90% of people actually fail because they don't do this step before they even step into a dealership and start test driving cars. This is the 35% gross income limit. This is the limit that you are setting to say you can safely spend up to 35% of your gross income on buying a car. And this is also what the bank looks at when you go to the bank looking for financing. They are looking at a safe limit for you of 35% of your gross income. Anything above 35%, it becomes unaffordable for you and they will hardly consider that for financing. And that limit actually is important because that is speaking to your debt to income ratio. You don't want to have too much debt that is eating away from the other areas of your life where you need to allocate money from your budget. So that 35% is the safe limit where you are already saying before you even go car shopping, already calculate. And we can do it quickly, whereby we are taking how much are you earning and figuring out how much of your income is 35%. And then you can now go look for a car in that range. Now let's say that you are earning 30,000 a month, and of course for the year that is 360,000. Now 35% of that income is 126,000. So that basically tells you if you are earning 360,000 for the year, you can only spend 126,000 on a car. That is your 35%. That is your safe limit. Even when you go to the bank, they will ask you to give them a picture of your expenses. Then they can make calculations to determine what is your safe limit, which is your 35%. It doesn't make sense even for you to go to the bank and try to get a loan if you want a car that is outside of what the bank considers as a safe percentage in terms of your debt to income ratio. And let's think about that quickly for a moment, because a lot of times we are not paying attention to what the numbers are telling us. That 126,000 is not your deposit. That is actually the amount of money that you can safely spend on a car on that income of 360,000 a year. That is the main reason why we want to do these types of calculations, so that you have a clear understanding of what is my financial situation. And knowing that this is your safe limit, when you decide to go beyond that and maybe you increase it to 300,000, you will be able to have an understanding that it will eat away from you actually putting money into investments and you growing and building wealth. So that is something that you will have an understanding of, that once I go beyond this, I am sacrificing other important parts of my finances just for me to drive this car. And we have to be honest that the car market has inflated so much over the years, to such a point that most of our salaries are not able to keep up with the prices of cars. We have to just be honest, cars are quite expensive. And if we are going in without us running our numbers, we are actually taking huge risks. Whatever you decide to do, at least decide when you are informed. Have all the information, then you can make a decision that yes, I still want to go ahead with this decision of buying this car at this price, knowing very well that my safe ceiling of 35% is this amount. Before we continue, if you are new here, welcome to our beta version. My name is Les. I am on my financial freedom journey and I want us to learn and build wealth together. Nothing I say on this channel should be seen or received as financial advice. And if you are looking for financial advice, please speak to somebody who is certified and registered with the relevant bodies in your area in order for them to provide financial advice. Let's continue. Now, let's say you have found a car that is actually within your safe limit of 35%. So how do you buy this car without you drowning into debt? That is now where the 24-10 rule is coming in. And we are going to start with the first portion of the rule, which is the 20. The 20 stands for 20% down payment. When you are buying a car, you want to at least put a down payment of 20%. Save for whatever period of time you need to save and have at least 20% that you are going to put as a down payment on that car. And that 20% does two things for you. Firstly, you need to remember that a car is a depreciating asset. And I'm sure you have heard a lot of times people saying the moment you drive it out of the dealership, it's already losing 20 to 30% of its value in that moment. And you don't want to finance the full amount of such a depreciating asset. You want to have that down payment so that there is a difference between how much the car is and how much financing you are going to need for that car. The second thing the 20% down payment will do for you is to save you money on interest. If you are not financing the full amount of the car, you are only financing the difference after you have taken out the 20%, that means you are actually going to save money on interest that you could have paid back to the bank to borrow that difference. So let's say for instance you are buying a car of 200,000 and you have now your deposit of 40,000, and now instead of you going to the bank and asking for a loan for 200,000, you are now only going to ask for a loan for the 160. Just by paying that deposit, you have already saved over 30,000 that you could have paid the bank in interest. That is why it's important to have a deposit so that there is no need for you to actually finance the entire amount that is the price of the car. And that 30,000 that you save is actually money that you can use for a holiday. That could be an island holiday somewhere at an affordable island with your person instead of you paying that money over to the bank. Then we come to 4 in the rule, and the 4 stands for 4 years maximum financing term. And when it comes to the financing term, this is actually where the dealerships are tricking us. Because when you go there, they then ask you, how much can you afford to pay for this car per month? And those are not the type of questions that you want to entertain. Because next thing you know, they are saying, okay, this car is 8,000 per month, but we are going to find a way to bring it down to 5,000 or to 4,000. But now we have to extend you from the 48 months, which is the 4 years, to you going to 72 months, which is 6 years. And for them to bring it down, it basically means now they have to extend the period that you are paying back the loan. Instead of you paying in 4 years, they will extend you to 6 years. And that might sound like it's a good idea in that moment, but believe me, it's not a good idea. Because the more years that you are paying, the more money that you are actually paying to the bank. It doesn't mean the price of the car has reduced because the term has extended. No. If the car is 400,000, you will still pay that amount of money for the car regardless of the term. However, you are going to pay much more in interest because now you are moving from the 4 years to 6 years. So it's not a good idea when they tell you you can pay off the car in 6 years or in 7 years or whatever number of years they are telling you. Do not fall for such arrangements. Rather stick to what you can pay within 4 years. The rule is basically saying the shorter your term, the less interest you are going to pay. If you are financing a 400,000 car, in 4 years you are only paying 105 in interest. But if your term goes up to 6 years, then you will pay 163,000. That is a difference of almost 60,000 that you are giving away to the bank just because you have extended your term. And if we are being honest, if you need to extend the term of your payment from 4 years to 6 years, you really cannot afford that car and you should not be buying the car. That is really how simple it is. And please stay away from balloon payments. You are really just giving money away. It's money that can fund other financial goals that you have for yourself. So don't commit to longer terms and don't commit to balloon payments. Finally, we are looking at the 10 portion of the rule, and that 10 is your budget breaker. And here the rule is saying your total transportation cost should be below 10% of your gross income. And you might be confused now. You are saying, Liz, but earlier you were talking about a 35% and now you are talking about a 10%. Yes, and there's a difference. The 35% was speaking to your debt to income ratio, and it was looking at what the bank actually looks at to approve you for financing financing. That is the safe limit that they are setting for you to say within this 35%, you can safely finance a car without you really having problems with your money. But once you go above the 35%, then there are bound to be issues and you might have trouble actually paying back the loan. That is basically the 35%. But now with the 10%, this was made for people who are trying to build wealth. It is meant for you to keep more money or more of your income. So 10% of your gross income as a limit is very strict, yes, but if you are somebody who is building wealth, you want to stick to that 10% so that you are able to channel more of your income towards your money goals and towards your freedom number. And this 10% limit in terms of your gross income, it actually ties in very well with frugal living. When you are on your financial freedom journey and you have a plan on how you are going to get there, you want to retain as much of your income as possible. You earn, but you must retain most of what you have earned so that you can then channel that income towards investments that can help you build wealth. You want to keep as much money as possible, and setting that strict 10%, it will save you. So when you are on your journey, you want to be quite frugal so that you are able to put as much of your income towards investments. Yes, it's very strict. It's not for everybody, but for people who are very serious about reaching their financial goals, it's something that can totally make sense. And that means that you shouldn't just go with what the bank is telling you. Just because the bank said you can afford up to 35%, it does not mean you should always go up to that 35%. You can do 10%, you can do 15%, you can do 20%, depending on your financial situation and what you are able to do. It's okay for you to make adjustments. You don't need to go with the maximum that you are being given. You can go for less, and then that difference, you can then channel that towards your investments. And when it comes to cars, you will notice that a lot of people that are actually wealthy, they are not driving the most expensive cars. A lot of them are driving modest cars. Why? Because wealthy people are not trying to impress. They are not trying to be seen as the cool person or the what. They are more interested in actually pumping more money into their investments so that they can get more out of those investments. And once they are at a certain stage in their financial journey, they are actually able to buy better from those investments. So it's an issue of saying, where am I currently in my financial journey and what am I able to do now while I'm growing myself? And one day you will get to a point where you getting a certain type of a car is no longer an issue for you. Now that we have looked at the rule, here are some of the things for you to consider if you are planning to buy a car. The first thing is that buy a used car, and the sweet spot is between 2 to 3 years. By that time, the car is still in a good condition, it's still fairly new, but most of the depreciation has already taken place, so you don't need to actually spend so much money in financing that car. But I know there are people who do not want to buy a used car. If you do buy a new car but hold it for as long as possible. I am one of those people who kept my car for many years. I drive an old car, and I am happy driving my old car because I know I have a financial plan. I know what I want. I have targets for certain ages, and I am not in a rush to upgrade or buy a new car at the moment. I am happy with my old car. So you want to keep your old car as long as possible. The number of years that you spend without a car loan, where you are not paying the bank for any car, you are channeling all that money towards your investments. So the longer you can stay doing that, the better. I know some people are quick to upgrade, but most of the time you do not need to upgrade. Most of the time our cars are actually fine, guys. We just want nicer things, we just want finer things. Then you get the new car and within 3 months you are so used to it, you don't even find the point of it anymore, but that money is already gone. In a lot of cases, there is no need for you to upgrade. So when you do buy a new car, drive that car until the wheels fall off, or at least until you are in a position where you know your investments have really grown, you know you have reached certain milestones within your financial freedom journey, and you are making a decision which is informed and you know exactly what you are doing. So it's not always necessary for us to buy new, but when we do buy new, we need to keep our cars as long as possible. If your car is not giving you any trouble and is in a good condition and it can get you from point A to point B, keep that car for as long as possible. And a word of caution, guys, if you do decide, especially if you are in Namibia, and you do decide to buy a used car and it's an imported used car, please do your research in advance. Really find out everything you can about the car and about the dealership, and before you pay your money, take that car to a reputable garage and have it checked, like a proper diagnostics or whatever they call it at the dealerships. Have it properly checked so that they can tell you if there is anything wrong with the car, and if there is, what is the exact thing that is wrong with the car, so that when you are buying, you know exactly, I am buying this and it has this problem. Because I have heard so many horror stories. I have seen loved ones and people close to me that have gone through those situations. You don't want to go through that. And when it comes to these dealerships that are selling the used cars, please have some sort of sale agreement or return policy or whatever, because once that money is gone and you have not done your due diligence and your research, that money is gone. You will fight and you might never be able to actually get out of that situation. So really be cautious. I'm not saying don't buy used which is imported. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying when you do make that choice, but do your research, be informed, know exactly what you are getting yourself into, because there are too many horror stories out there and you don't want to fall victim of those things. Another thing that you want to do if you are planning to buy a car is to negotiate the price of the car. Whether you are buying new or you are buying old, negotiate the actual price of the car. Don't try to negotiate on the monthly installment, because the monthly installment is based on how much the car is. And especially with used cars, you might be able to have more leeway to negotiate compared to new cars. But whatever it is, try your best to negotiate. Whatever reduction you can get is money that is coming back into your pocket, and you can channel that money towards your investments. And when it comes to cash payments for cars, it's really up to you to run your numbers in terms of what is the opportunity cost when you buy the car cash versus when you finance it and you channel that money towards your investments. Really make that decision for you, but also look at making a decision from a point of safety. If you are somebody who feels much safer not owing anyone, maybe you are a highly anxious person and you know it will affect you knowing that you have money sitting somewhere while you are financing the car, you can also look at that when you are making a decision. But whatever you decide, just make sure that you have a clear understanding of what is your opportunity cost between you buying the car cash versus when you are financing a portion of that amount and maybe having a deposit. And maybe you can also look into, instead of you buying the full cash amount, maybe you pay half and then the other half you can finance. Then that half that you leave, you can put now towards your investments. Really look at your scenarios. Which one is best for you? Is it to buy full cash? Is it to buy cash half and then the other half you can channel towards your investments? Or is it to finance the 80% and then you only put a deposit of 20%? Really look at your numbers and then you make a decision. So that is the 24-10 rule. And this rule is not meant to scare you, but it's really meant to say, have a clear understanding of your finances. What is your 35% safety limit when it comes to buying a car? And then, do you have a 20% down payment? And are you financing the car within 4 years or you are financing longer? Just know that the longer you finance, the more you are paying in interest. And are you able to apply the 10% gross income limit? Or you are going to stick with the 35%? Or maybe you are going to find a way between the 10% and the 35%. Maybe you will get to 20%. That is basically basically what the rule was meant to show you. Not to scare you, not for you to feel like you are no longer going to buy a car or you will never afford a car, but really just to have an understanding of what makes sense to you financially, whether you can afford or you cannot afford. And if we are being honest, many of us cannot afford a car, or at least not a car that we want. And the more you push yourself to finance those high-end cars, the more you will have nothing left on your account when that car payment is gone off. Really look at what is best for you. Is it for you to buy a used car, or is it for you to buy an entry-level car or a cheaper car compared to the one that you want? Or is it for you to finance your dream car and sit at home where your fridge is empty, you don't have any food, and sometimes the electricity is not paid? Those are all decisions that you can make as an adult. But all I ask is run your numbers so that you have a better understanding of what is going on. So whatever decision you make, it should be the best decision for you, informed by your numbers. Don't blindly make decisions. Always look at your numbers. Then you can decide which direction you want to go. Whether you actually end up drowning in debt or not, that is totally in your hands. But always make sure that you run your numbers to have a clear picture of what your finances can actually allow. And if this video gave you a reality check, the best way to support the channel is to subscribe, leave a like for the video, and let me know in the comments what are your views when it comes to this topic. I would love to hear from you. I'll see you in the next video.